The Last King of Scotland movie review. So if you're not familiar with this movie, and it is a few years old at this point, so maybe you're not, I'll just give kind of some brief background to it. The film is actually not literally about the last King of Scotland. The title is somewhat ironic. The film is about a Scottish doctor named Nicholas Garrigan, who has a very unique relationship with the Uganda strongman dictator, Idi Amin. It's a movie primarily about the atrocities during Idi Amin's reign as a Ugandan dictator. And as you can kind of guess from that description, it's a bit depressing. And because of that, I was avoiding watching this for a long time. Like, people were talking about it, but I didn't want to see it. I thought it was going to be depressing. But a friend of mine saw it and quite strongly recommended it to me. So I ended up giving it a rental and watching it. And now here I am with the review. Yeah, it's a very interesting story, or at least it looks like it. I was watching the movie and I thought, wow, this Scottish doctor, Nicholas Garrigan, has really got this amazing story. And then I went online, to Wikipedia to check it out. And it turns out that the Scottish doctor Nicholas Garrigan is entirely fictional. He didn't exist. He didn't have a relationship with Idi Amin. I mean, Idi Amin was historical. Idi Amin was a real person, but the Scottish doctor was not. So it's kind of historical fiction. Now, I like historical fiction, but I tend to be more interested in the history than the fiction. Which is to say, I would have been more interested in learning about the details about Idi Amin's reign, but I'm not so interested in kind of his fictional relationship with the fictional Scottish doctor. At the same time, I think I can understand why they did it. And this is based on a book, so I guess this originally comes from a book. But Idi Amin, if you want to have kind of a fictional story kind of looking at the disaster that was his reign, you need kind of a sympathetic main character through which to see it. I mean, you couldn't have Idi Amin just be the main character. That would just be kind of way too depressing, and there would be nobody for the audience to identify with, right? You need a point of view character for the audience. So I'm 90% sure that's why they did it. I suspect this worked better in the novel than it did in the movie, because in the novel, you've got a lot of time and you can get into it more. You can talk about the fictional story about the Scottish doctor and Idi Amin, and you can also talk about everything that was going on in Idi Amin's reign and get into the historical details. In the movie, time is a lot more precious, and I just got the sense throughout that the historical details were really just kind of getting slighted here so they could focus on the relationship. Again, I think this worked better in the novel. I suspect it did. But in the movie, you just kind of get all these like tidbits, but you never fully understand why anything is going on. Like, we don't know who Idi Amin is fighting, why he's fighting them, why are the British involved in this? The British are in there somewhere. There's some sort of connection to Palestinian terrorists, which I didn't fully understand. And then Idi Amin was really anti-Israeli for reasons I didn't understand. Again, like there are tidbits of all this stuff in the movie, but it never really gets fleshed out. And let's face it, most Americans, and I'd include myself in this, know nothing about Idi Amin or Ugandan's history. So we almost really need that background. Now, I guess the positive point of this is that after watching this movie, I did go on Wikipedia and try and look everything up and read about Idi Amin and read about Uganda and stuff like that. So it was educational in that sense. It was educational in the sense that it got me vaguely interested and sent me to Wikipedia, which maybe is the purpose of the movies like this. I don't know. I have to admit that I would have had no idea who Idi Amin was otherwise. But yeah, one last criticism here, and I almost hate to be the person who points these things out, but it does have to be said. This is yet another movie about Africa where we have a white protagonist who's kind of the good guy. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these. There's The Power of One, In My Country, Cry Freedom, Blood Diamond. I think just about all or almost all the movies I've seen on Africa are kind of through the eyes of a white protagonist. So arguably that's problematic. I mean, it's not problematic. It's problematic as a trend. I think if it was just this one individual movie, it wouldn't be so much of a problem. But when it's all these movies, then it does kind of become a problem. Anyways, in spite of all my mixed reviews, it probably is worth seeing. It won't tell you a lot, but it'll kind of get you interested in the history.